We arrived in Ukraine. It was the 18th of July, and I mean, just after the flight, I was so thankful to God to just make it here. It was an incredible experience flying into the motherland and looking at where we were going to be landing and starting all of our mission work. And being that where that's all my family was from, it was like I was coming home. Initially getting here, it was overwhelming. I mean, there was such a change in the culture and everything. I can probably say, speaking for all three of us girls, we had to remember why we were here, because initially all we could think about is Ukraine this and Ukraine that, but that we were here to do God's work, and we had to set our mind to that. I really think that we went on a mission to the Rehab Center, really set that for us, but that couldn't even begin to describe what was actually coming. I originally expected a scary center where we were going for addicts, and when we opened the door, it was a pleasant surprise. It was actually quite precious, this place that we went to. The director explained to us that the center is a place for families and homeless people to live, and they provide job opportunities and really help them get their lives together. And for the ones with families, that means a lot. It's amazing, actually. As the director was speaking in the hallway, I remember this little girl. Her name was Dasha, and she had the whole room smiling. And at that moment, I realized that these children here, they were truly blessed to have such a place to live. I remember giving them bracelets and balloons from Sister Bernarda, and it meant so much to them. And I remember I sat on the floor, and the one little girl sat on my lap. Just her laugh and her smiles had brought so much joy to me. And, you know, such little things mean so much to them, and I think we often forget what those little things are. Then we went to another house, orphanage, for it's mostly older. And we're driving through the villages to get there, and just thinking that this is how my family grew up here, in the villages with all the gorkas and everything, and it really reminded me how grateful I am to be able to live in America. It's just incredible. The orphanage had mentally slow orphans in it. When they knew they arrived, the one girl, her name was Olha, she ran outside, and I remember them smiling at us, and they were so excited for us to be there. And you know, we're going to do work for them there, and we get there, and they're setting place settings for us, and they're serving us, and I was really caught off guard from it, because it really shows you how these people are so grateful for what they do have, and what they do have they want to share with everyone else, and that's beautiful. And when you see these people who from society they're removed just because they're not the quote-unquote normal, you meet them and they're all special, and you can see God in each of them, and they're all so talented. And so then, let's see, the next day we visited a smaller orphanage with about 5 girls, and it was more of a home environment, and they were all very lucky to be in this environment because it's like having a small family. The next orphanage we went to was a all-girl orphanage. About, I think they said there was 60, 70 girls in there. And I wasn't prepared for what I saw. And I walked in, and it was overwhelming. And there was a million, you know, these girls just jumping on you. And they were so excited to see you. And it meant so much for us, us just to be there. And then, I mean, of course, when we bring out, like, you know, toys and stuff for them, that makes them more excited. But just our presence meant the world to them. When you walked into this place, you really got a sense of God being there with them, because they have care, but it's just initial care, and they need more than that. And that's when God comes in. He's there with them, and He takes care of them. And when you see those little kids' faces that are crippled who will never leave their cribs or wheelchairs, you see God's face in them when they smile. They're so happy for you to be there, and they communicate with you just by you looking at them. I'm just starting to think about when we finally got to Ivano-Frankivsk and started going to those orphanages. We got to one orphanage on the way there, and was ran by the sisters, and there was, I think, 6 or 7 kids in it, and you can tell how well they're taken care of. But it really didn't hit me that how much of an impact the church actually does have on the orphanage that are run or ran. I remember when we went to see the first baby orphanage, and we got there, and these little kids are walking in straight lines, and what I thought they were just shy. They took us through the orphanage, in and out of each room, and the kids were reacting, but not a lot. I mean, I was just so happy to be spending time with these little kids that it didn't actually hit me of what kind of care they were getting until we went to the next orphanage. And we got there, and we got a tour of it, and it was like there was nothing to be, hid from us. It was run by the sisters. And when they finally brought all the kids out, these kids were so loved and taken care of by these nuns. It was incredible. They were the happiest children I've ever seen. They were so loving and caring towards us, and all they wanted to do was just be with us, and they were all smiling and laughing, and I really got attached to this one little girl named Katya, and I always joke around about how I wanted to bring her home with me, but truly, I mean, these kids, they were amazing kids, and they're so blessed by God to ended up in one of these orphanages as opposed to the first one where their care is all an act, and are they really being taken care of or not? The next orphanage was really hard. I was honestly left speechless. The minute I left that place, I was almost in tears. I can't even put into words how terrible I felt leaving those kids like that. I couldn't stop thinking about those children. I remember walking in there and getting there, and this little girl, she wasn't little probably, she was probably 15 or 16, but she was tiny and she had Downs, and I remember she ran up to me and she gave me a big hug and attached to me and didn't want to let go, and one of the caretakers yelling at her to get off of me, and I didn't understand why, she was just happy to see us there to visit them. Immediately when we got there, they took all the kids inside, and it took us a while to get in because they were preparing for us, and there shouldn't be a need to prepare. Like, you should always be taking care of these children. Like, they should be taken care of. And I remember finally getting inside and going upstairs. The caretakers were guarding most of the doors, and they would show you about maybe 2 rooms, including, their perfect room that they show off. But of course, us in the mission, we just went into all the rooms and saw all the kids, and it really leaves you speechless when you walk into a room of little children in beds holding on to these bars and looking you in the eyes, and it says everything. These children are left there to die. They're not left there to be taken care of. They're left there for their last final. When you look at these children now, they're all truly little angels. You hold their hand, but you can tell they don't even get that much attention from these places. They don't treat them like children. They don't treat them like humans. They take them as if they're animals. They throw them in these cribs, but they treat them like they're cages. They put them in there. They feed them when they want to. They change them when they want to, but they don't want to. They don't care about these kids. And if it's frustrating when there's nothing you can do to change that besides when you're there, spend that time with them, stand there, hold their hands, say a prayer with them, just talk to them. And even if they don't respond, they know what you're saying because they know that you're experiencing things such as watching little kids bang their heads off the wall and caretakers walking by like it's nothing, them picking up and them just throwing them somewhere else, or them completely ignoring them and not being in rooms with them. You don't let kids be in rooms by themselves. And when the caretakers thought that most of the mission was downstairs, they went back to what they usually do, and that's nothing, and left us up there. But they didn't know that. And I remember me and Christine walking down the hallways, and no one's watching these kids. No one's feeding these kids. No one's loving these kids. Everyone needs love to reach their full potential, especially these kids when their potential needs so much love and they're not getting any. I remember one little boy, there wasn't much wrong with him, he was just autistic. And I remember him looking through the crib, which looked like bars. It was like he was in a cage and looking at me and crying. And I looked at him and I just said, "What?" And he took his Beanie Baby that, we gave them, and he started hitting these bars. And I stood there and I was in this room by myself, and I just said to him, "I know it's not fair." And I started rubbing his back, and you couldn't even get a smile from him. And we forget that it's the little things that we really do need. Love and family and through God is that only possible. That we are so blessed to have love and to have our families and to live where we live. And all we can do is continue to pray for these little angels here in Ukraine, that God blesses them, gives all the blessings that He can until that they meet Him in heaven. I guess as an ending, I am so thankful to God for absolutely everything, for my family, for my friends, for how I was raised. I have been brought up in this faith that I believe in God who can do all of this, and I am so blessed to have experienced these past 2 weeks, and I'm so thankful to all of those who have contributed to our journey on this mission. Thank you to all of the sisters for all of their prayers and for everything, and thank you, Sister Bernarda, for all of the beautiful works you've done with these orphanages and letting us experience it. We've been having continuous prayer for all of this, and we're so blessed to be a part of it.